Welcome to
The Dark Files. I'm Emily Sweaters.
And I'm Kasie Cardigan. And this week I am coming at you with a hot topic, sleep paralysis.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, I am a sufferer of sleep paralysis. But we'll get into that in a minute. First, it is time to
Crack that claw.
crack that claw. All right, crack that claw and go. Go. Mine was so slow. Get up.
So, I'm, again, this week drinking it's not a claw, it's a pumpkin spice vibe.
5. I'm drinking black cherry White Claw. I think I had that last week too.
Yeah.
You would think we were sponsored by Claw,
White
but
Claw.
not yet.
Someday.
I don't think they ever will. We're too small for that. You know what I mean? Not like they're not going to like put money into us.
Maybe if we get big enough, they might.
Yeah, maybe. I doubt it. But okay. Okay, guys. So this week I am talking about sleep paralysis. And it is a subject very near and dear to my heart because I have suffered from sleep paralysis for a long time. So, do you know what it is?
I do know what it is. I've never had it myself,
Okay.
but one of the guys I dated had it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think I witnessed one of his first episodes because I was like looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? 'Cause he was asleep, but he was like he was like trying to wake up and like making like weird noises. And,
You probably did.
And then I woke him up and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I just had a really bad dream. And I'm like, well, it was very weird to watch.
Yeah.
So no, I've never had it myself, but I watched that and it was very freaky. That was enough.
It's enough. So for those of you that voted on my Instagram poll where I said, should I talk about past lives or sleep paralysis? The vote won by like 5. I think sleep paralysis won by like 5 votes or something. So I'm going to give you a general overview of sleep paralysis, go into a little the mythology of sleep paralysis, and then like some of the science-ish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So sleep paralysis is a feeling of being unable to move either at the onset of sleep or upon awakening. So essentially your mind wakes up before your body does when you're sleeping.
Okay.
And it's really fucking creepy. It's so creepy. So in a sense you're paralyzed. So you're laying there, you feel awake, but your body cannot move. Okay. And oftentimes sleep paralysis is accompanied with hallucinations and like intense fear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So sleep paralysis is brief, usually lasting from like seconds to a minute, even though it feels a lot longer when you're in it.
Yeah.
And it's not life-threatening, but the person may remember it as haunting and horrifying and increase your fear, which I agree with that because I, for the longest time, like terrified to sleep in a house by myself, like that somebody was gonna like break in and kill me because, well, one, just because I feel like I watched a lot of Lifetime movies growing up, but also because another component of sleep paralysis, which I'll get into later, is that you have a sense of a threatening figure coming towards you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, in my sleep paralysis, I'll move. Sorry guys, we're sitting on the couch in Emily's house today, so we're not facing each other, but now we are. So like in my sleep paralysis, the worst one I ever had, I remember I was in college in AOPI, we had these bunk beds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on the top bunk and I remember Audra, shout out Audra, was across in the other top bunk. And I was sleeping and I knew I was awake, but there was just like a black, almost cloaked figure, like leaning over me, like reaching towards me. And I'm trying to scream and I'm trying to scream. And I like can see Audra over there. And I'm like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I can't. And then eventually I fell back to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
And then it happened 2 more times that night. Like then I just Googled sleep paralysis all night because I didn't know that it was called sleep paralysis then.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with me? So it's very scary for those that have had it. So episodes are often accompanied by hypnagogic experiences. I don't know if I said that right.
You did, yes.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which are visual, auditory, and sensory hallucinations. Mm-hmm. So not everybody would have those, but oftentimes they're associated with something like a cloaked figure or a person, or they hear footsteps and things like that. Okay. So, sorry guys, I'm moving things. These occur during the transition between sleeping and waking, and they fall into one of three categories. So a lot of this part I copied from healthline.com. And then I'll comment on the other sources when I get to it, because I really only use like 2 or 3, I think.
Okay.
So I'll repeat that. These occur during the transition between sleeping and waking, and they consistently fall into one of 3 categories. Sorry, I can't read that far. Okay. Intruder. There are sounds of doorknobs opening, shuffling footsteps, a shadow man, or a sense of threatening presence in the room.
Ooh.
Which is mine.
Are yours always intruders?
Usually there's occasionally where I'm like, I can see the room that I'm in and it's not an intruder. Like, the more I've learned about it, the more I've kind of like, I can talk myself down from them.
Yeah.
The other one, so intruder was 1, incubus was the second, which is feelings of pressure on the chest, difficulty breathing with the sense of being smothered, strangled, or sexually assaulted by a malevolent being.
Oh, yeah.
The individual believes they are about to die.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which I guess there's like the succubus and the incubus are both things like are supposed to be like sexual life suckers or something. And then the other one is vestibular motor, which is a sense of spinning, falling, floating, flying, hovering over one's body, or another type of out-of-body experience.
Ooh, cool.
So I've had that occasionally. Not actually. Like, I've had the thing where you, like, start to fall asleep and then you're like, whoa, and then you trip and fall. You know what I mean?
I've
Do you ever have that?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's exactly the same thing. My main one is an intruder. Like, I usually am like, which is why I was so scared to sleep by myself. Because, like, even I just felt like somebody was in the house, even though I know it wasn't. But, like, when you're in that state of mind, even if you know that, like, there's not anybody there, it's so scary to realize if something were to happen to me, I can't do anything. Like, I literally can't wake up right now. I can't do anything.
That's crazy.
So then that's basically like a little bit of the basics of sleep paralysis, which is not fun. So be glad that you've never had it. So a lot of what I have the next portion of is from this book called Sleep Paralysis: Nightmares, Nocebos, and the Mind-Body Connection by Shelley Adler from Rutgers University Press. So shout out to NKU, because I still have a login and I can access the library, and that's how I got it. Okay, so the history/theories of sleep paralysis/nightmares. And I'll get into the distinction like later. Okay. But okay, so the etymology of a nightmare is a German word for like mare, or there's another old Norse word that's like mar or something, which essentially short means like a woman coming to get you or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Okay. So that's kind of where the word nightmare origins, like is, and it happens in the night, obviously. Hence the word night. Okay. Yes. So nightmare spirits have been around for millennia. One scholar in 1889 went so far as to say it was the origin of all mythology.
Nightmares are? Huh.
Like the nightmare like spirit is. Yeah. Now in the book that I read, they're like, obviously you couldn't make that statement now, but I'm like, it kind of makes sense though, because everybody sleeps. Yeah. Everyone, you dream. All have different experiences when you dream. Yeah, things like that. So I don't know who the scholar was. I didn't write it down. That's okay. Read the book if you want.
You're way better at citing your sources than I am, so I will go ahead and give you credit.
Yes, how many years of college finally pay off?
Clearly, I did not glean that benefit.
Okay, the earliest surviving written description of a nightmare is an Assyrian reference to an evil spirit called Alu, A-L-U. And then there's also the famous Lilith demon.
Oh, I know about Lilith.
That would seduce you in the middle of the night. So as far back as 2400 CBE.
Jesus.
Or BCE.
BC.
Before Common Era. Yeah, whatever. A Sumerian king was described as a Lilu demon. Okay. So like, that's even the sense that, and I think some of those might be more like sexual or whatever, but I think that's also because it's like the feeling of somebody like pressing on you kind of thing in the sleep.
Yeah. Did you ever watch True Blood?
No, but my mom and sister did. I know some of it.
They had like in the later seasons they had a Lilith and it was like the vampire goddess and
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember that from a Nora Roberts book that I read. I think I love Nora Roberts. Nora Roberts, if you're listening.
Kasie loves you.
I love your books. I read them all the time. Okay. So, and I forgot to remember what this was, but so basically sleep paralysis has been around for a very long time and has different descriptions of it, different like mythology around it, because I think I'm imagining it was very hard to like capture what it means, so, or like why it happens without any science, so people probably ascribed it to like different mythological beings.
Yeah.
So across the globe, countries have different theories on what sleep paralysis really is. So in this book, there was like 2 whole pages of what of all these different countries and what they call sleep paralysis and nightmares. So like, for example, in Japanese culture, sleep paralysis is called kanashibara.
Cool.
And it like means something, but I kind of forget. I think it's something like it's an experience of somebody coming in to get your soul or something like that.
Sure.
Sorry guys, that was my water bottle.
Shit.
So like in a lot of other cultures, at least in previous years, like sleep paralysis has an identifiable thing, like it's a part of culture. It's like, it's the whatever I said that was, kanashibara.
Yeah.
And then a common story is a study from Newfoundland, which many residents describe an old witch-like woman that would press on your chest, and it was called the old hag, or like however it translated was a hag riding you.
Yep. Same.
Gotta love those hag rides.
That's hilarious.
Riding in the chest, and so sleep paralysis is often called old hag syndrome.
Oh.
Because that's just like the cultural reference of what it is.
Gotcha.
Which reminds me, do you remember that episode of The X-Files where Skinner had a prostitute in the room or sex worker, sorry if we're going to be like politically correct. There was, and then in the middle of the night, there was a person on them, and then it like flashed to be an old woman. That's like the old hag syndrome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So throughout all of these different cultures, they did it like, I don't remember who it is. There was a study that showed that sleep paralysis has consistent features around the globe. So you know it's sleep paralysis when it has one of like these things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're awake.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I can't speak for everybody that has sleep paralysis, it's not like I'm like, my eyes are popping open and I'm awake. I think that does happen to some people.
Yeah.
But mine are, my eyes are still closed, but I feel like I'm in my room. Like, I just can't explain it.
Yeah.
Except your mind wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
You perceive your surroundings as real. You can't move.
Mm-hmm.
There is an element of intense fear.
Mm-hmm.
There's often an evil presence.
Ooh.
There's a crushing pressure on your chest or like difficulty breathing. And you're lying helpless on your back. Which, even though most studies show that people don't fall asleep on your back, people fall asleep on your side.
Yeah.
Most studies show that sleep paralysis occurs when you're laying on your back in this supine position.
Interesting.
Which is why I always try to fall asleep on my side.
I did not know that.
Yeah. When I researched it that night in college, when I couldn't sleep, I researched it because they said, for whatever reason, when your body is laying down, and I'll get into some of the science in a little bit, but like, when your body is laying down, it is like just flattened and more relaxed, so it's easier for it to just happen.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think, what else do I have? Okay. So those are like the elements. So if reading those to you, have you had any of that? You've never had it?
No, I mean, I've definitely had like where you're falling asleep and like you like jerk, but no, I've never had it.
Yeah, well, that's scary.
Yeah.
So, and it's extra scary because, so you aren't you're asleep, but you're not asleep. It's part of your like waking conscious. So like, you know what's happening, which is scary. But so the fundamental experiences are consistent across cultures, but the interpretations of sleep paralysis are what is different.
Sure.
So what they found is that in cultures where people have an explanation for what sleep paralysis is, that like makes sense and it can be explained by that. Like in Japan, or there's a bunch of other, I can't remember some of the other places, but they have like a name for the experience, and it's a cultural experience. But in the US, for example, there isn't like a common mythology to sleep paralysis, so people will find their own ways to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like with anything. So I just thought that was interesting, where it's like, if the culture has already defined it, you're like, oh, well, that's the Kanishibari or whatever it was. But for like here, and I think some of the other, maybe the other one was like Canada or something.
Yeah.
That people have to make sense of it themselves, because it's very concerning.
Yeah.
It is very concerning.
Sure.
So a few ways they do that is claim that they have, not claim, but they're concerned that they maybe have a mental or physical illness.
Sure.
Or like there's something going wrong with them.
Yeah.
You know, that's why that's happening. Like they need a medical diagnosis. 2, they turn it into spiritual, as in like demons and religion. And like, you know, like a demon told me to do this, or like Jesus came and told me that, you know, something like that.
Sure.
You're huge.
The usual.
And then the third is my favorite. Do you want to guess what it is?
Aliens?
Yes, it is. It's paranormal, aka alien abduction.
Woohoo!
So, while it's not like a confirmed connection, whatever that means, that's the quote from the book.
Yeah.
While it's not a confirmed connection to alien abduction, the book describes that alien abductions often take place in a bed, with humming noises around them, restrained movements, and there's something threatening happening.
Sure.
Which is sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
So in what also, well, I think I talk about it later, but I can say it now because whatever. So also with sleep paralysis, people will sometimes hear noises like the footsteps or the humming in what is a normal everyday occurrence in a house. When you hear it in sleep paralysis, sounds threatening because you're already in a state of fear.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if, let's say, you are experiencing sleep paralysis, you can't move, maybe a car light drives by, or you fell asleep with the light on, or there's enough, like your air conditioner's on and you can't move, all of those things combined with the hallucinations that sometimes happen during sleep, like with dreams and stuff, would maybe make you think you had an alien abduction. Now, on a different note about alien abductions, which I have not, that's going to be like 5 different dark files because I think it's fascinating. But if you watch the show The Dead Files, I don't know why I'm looking at the microphone like somebody's there, but if you watch The Dead Files, Amy, have you watched it? Girl, you got to watch The Dead Files. It's about, how have you not watched it?
One of the conventions I was at, they were there. Don't quote me.
What? You didn't go and tell me and say hi?
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, it's on the Travel Channel. Okay, side note. It's on the Travel Channel. It's about this cop, Steve, who does not believe in any ghosts, aliens, anything.
Yeah.
But he believes in Amy because he's like, I've had a bunch of people that are whack jobs, but she is right every single time. And she owns up to, she will be the first to tell you not every medium is 100% accurate.
Right.
So Steve, like, literally does not believe in any of it. She goes into the house and, like, does her medium thing and, like, sees what's going on. He goes and he researches, like, who owned the land and the city and everything like that. Then they come and meet for the first time. They don't talk until the reveal.
Gotcha.
And then they all reveal. And, like, she does sketches about ghosts that she sees and they match real life people.
Wow.
And he's like, I don't believe in people, but I believe in Amy.
Wow.
Guys, watch it, The Dead Files.
I've never, like, I've heard the name, but I didn't, like, know what it was about.
Oh, it's real creepy. She's like, I don't know how to tell you guys this, but there are literally aliens outside of your house that are trying to get in. Or she's like, you've been abducted by an alien.
I will tell you a story.
Okay.
About when I was little.
Oh my gosh, were you abducted by an alien?
I think I was.
Okay, why?
So, my mom was, like, super pregnant with Lauren.
Okay.
And I had gotten sick or something, or was scared and wanted to sleep with them, but she was, like, about to book. Like, she's like, I can't. Like,
Yeah, it's too much.
yeah, totally understand it. So she had me sleep in, like, the spare bedroom right next to their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in there, and it was, like, wintertime, and I swear to God, there were, like, aliens, like, stacked up on each other's shoulders. like looking
Stop.
in my window.
In your window?
Yeah,
Maybe.
and that like there was like frost on the window, and I remember like I told my mom the next day. She's like, "Oh, it was just the frost on the window," and I'm like, "No, like
Were you awake or were you asleep?
I was awake.
Were you wide awake or were you in sleep paralysis?
I mean, I was like 4, so
Okay, so
it's what my memory is not like very clear about it, but I do think I was awake. Like I couldn't sleep, and that's why I wanted to go sleep with them, like sleep in their bedroom.
and you probably did see freaking aliens.
I probably did.
You need to watch the Dead Files. She, in one episode, she tells them, she's like, your daughter is a medium, and there's basically a line of dead people that are coming to help. Like that they want her to help them pass over in the middle of the night while she's sleeping.
Wow.
Because that's when she's like loose and can do it.
Ew.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. That was my side note. So people sometimes mistake alien abductions mistake sleep paralysis for an alien abduction. So sleep paralysis for decades, sleep paralysis and nightmares were assigned to psychological repression. Can you guess the psychologist's name that comes up in the topic?
Is it Freud?
It is Freud. But, so they said Freud was more like, he didn't even consider sleep paralysis. And he was more like focused on dreams.
Yeah, he's obsessed with dreams.
Yeah.
I have a book that he wrote about dreams. It's very boring.
I believe it. Like, I don't think dreams tell you as much as he would think they do.
No, I don't
I think they're yeah. So, so a lot of psychologists believe that dreams were a repression and that all these things happened, or they were like sexual repression.
Yes.
One scholar said it was suppressing homosexuality, that sleep paralysis was. And then eventually they did all these studies and they're like, yeah, no.
No, that's not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So until sleep science, like sleep labs and the study of like science of sleep has arrived, and then that showed that it's actually is like a disruption in your sleep pattern, and it's not like some psychological like repression,
Right. Yeah.
Because that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And then the other psychologists that were saying that the sleep lab was wrong eventually couldn't like refute their claims. They're like, okay, whatever. So, but because of the reputation of mental illness, many people would not report sleep paralysis because they were scared of being misunderstood or misdiagnosed or, I mean, pick anything. Jesus, they just put about anybody in an insane asylum.
They're terrible.
You just say, oh, there's an intruder coming in my sleep and I can't move.
Yeah, they definitely locked
Well,
it
you're
away.
insane. Let's give you a lobotomy.
Yes.
I think the answer to everything was a lobotomy.
Oh, yeah. Last podcast did a really good 2-parter on lobotomies.
Really?
Very good.
It kind of. I was watching Ratched,
Mm-hmm.
and they do it.
That? I haven't
seen it. It was pretty good. I liked it. I haven't watched the rest of it. The style is really cool.
Is it?
Yeah, the clothes are cool. And also, not a fun fact. I don't know why I was about to say fun fact. This isn't a fun fact at all. But sleep paralysis can be a trigger for people that have experienced trauma.
Yeah.
So, especially since you're out of control, you can't move, there's a pressure, it's intense fear, it's threatening, things like that. So in the sense of with psychology, like that does apply because it could be a trigger for people.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the background on sleep paralysis. It was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a few WebMD articles, but the mythology behind it, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, that is quite.
Because you're sleeping and like nobody else can experience what you're experiencing in your head.
Right.
You know. So the science of sleep paralysis.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna try to explain it, but I don't really know if I'm gonna do it right. So let me get out this notebook because I took notes because I couldn't remember all of it.
Okay. I took a class in college, like called sleep psychology. And we learned about sleep paralysis, but we didn't get like super in depth, like
about it.
Yeah, it was like 1 page of notes. Like it really wasn't much that they got into.
Well, there's a lot more people. Okay, I can't remember the number. I think it said like 20 to 40% of people have experienced sleep paralysis.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Maybe I made that up.
I mean, I believe it.
It's a fairly high number from what I was thinking. Okay. So, there's 4 stages. This is where I got confused. Okay. All right, everybody, here we go. There's more than 3 million cases per year in the U.S. of sleep paralysis.
Wow.
So that's pretty many.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, so there's 4 phases of NREM, which is non-rapid eye movement sleep. There's your drowsiness, your light sleep, which is stage 2, which is about 45 to 55% of sleep is in the stage 2. And then 3 and 4 is like combo, I guess, and it's your deep and slow wave sleep. This is where you would have bedwetting, night terrors, etc. You're like, whatever. But then there's REM sleep. So is it like you have your your non-rapid eye movement, and then that takes you into your REM sleep?
Yeah, so like from what I remember from my psych classes, it's not linear. Like you might go like stages 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Like it's not necessarily like boom, boom, boom. But I do believe you have to go through all 4 stages before you get to REM.
Okay, so that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
So, but when you're in REM sleep is when your muscles will really start to relax, which actually makes sense because if you think if it's not as linear, that would make sense that sometimes you have those jerky movements and things like that. But so your muscles actually relax so that you don't act out your dreams. You know, like if you're dreaming, you're whatever. So sleep paralysis will usually occur at the start or the end of REM sleep, depending on where you're at.
Yeah.
And the book says to remember that paralysis is normal. It is the consciousness that is abnormal.
Right.
So when you which was kind of good because when you experience sleep paralysis though, like when you first wake up, it's usually like, oh my God, I can't move my body. I can't move. Why can't I move? Blah, 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 blah. So it's like you think there's something wrong with your body.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you know that it's sleep paralysis, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to not be able to move and I need to get back down.
Sure.
So these are some of the characteristics explained by science. So a big question is, why do you feel the pressure on your chest? Because we know why you're paralyzed, because your body's in REM sleep.
Right.
And it just happens to be you wake up at a disruption in between those cycles. I had to quote this. The atonic muscles of the tongue and esophagus collapse the airway. So relaxed muscles can hinder breathing and create pressure. So since you're in like that position and you're relaxed, all of that is relaxed, which could create pressure, difficulty breathing. And if you're having difficulty breathing, then you start to panic.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
The feeling of like threatening is when it activates your vigilance system. I don't know if that's like the official word, but you know, like a vigilante, like you're being vigilant. Because oftentimes in sleep paralysis, your brain will start to activate it'll activate different parts of your brain. So let's say maybe your auditory is awake and you can start to hear things, but because you can't do anything and you can't see anything, you're feeling threatened because you can hear it, but like, so your system goes on attack. Yeah. Or like you can smell it or something like that. So the sleep paralysis activates different parts of your brain, which could turn that into you as a person will turn that into meaning, right? Sure. We turn everything into meaning. We make something of everything. So then it can be perceived as a threat. Which, this makes me think brains are so freaking weird.
Yeah, they are weird. And there's so much we don't even know about them.
I know. Like, what if I have superpowers?
You might.
You think you do? You can see aliens. I don't think I've ever seen an alien. No, I will go on fact. I've never seen an alien. There's not a question.
I mean, like, I don't know that it was a fact.
No. I'm saying it's my fact that I haven't seen an alien.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless I haven't, I don't know. What if my sleep paralysis is actually an alien abduction?
It could be.
No, I'm just sounding like a crazy
Check
person.
to make sure you don't have any, like, nodules or anything in your neck.
Yeah, where was Scully's? In her nose, wasn't it?
Was it? I remember she dug it out.
Was it in her back?
I think it was, like, in the back of her neck.
No, remember those women had things in their nose.
Yeah, but I don't know if hers was there.
Or did what's his face, Smokey Man, put something in her back too?
Maybe.
We have to Google this. That show is so weird. Okay, so I also want to explain the differences in sleep disorders.
Okay.
Not all of them, as I'm not a sleep scientist, but whatever the book told me.
Okay.
Basically, I'm just reading you this book.
Okay.
So sleep paralysis, as we've discussed for the past however many minutes, REM sleep atypically interrupts your NREM1 sleep. So with your light drowsiness, with your REM sleep, there's like an interruption.
Yeah.
Okay, a night terror is when you're in the NREM 3 and 4 stages, which is when you might wake up screaming, you not remember it, and you just like bolt out of bed. That was the example they gave. So you might not remember it the next day, but that's what stage of sleep you're in.
Yeah.
Bad dreams are just like your normal stream of, I'm going to say consciousness, but whatever, in a normal REM sleep.
Sure.
So when you're in an REM sleep and shit's happening in your dream, which I have the weirdest dreams, like the weirdest ones, that's what happens. So then, taking you on a twist that you maybe were not expecting.
Ooh, let's see.
Okay. So according to spiritmolecule.com and the article Astro 101, Astral, and then the other one is the Beckley Foundation. Sleep paralysis, there's a theory that sleep paralysis can be used to access astral projections.
Okay.
So, from what I can gather, an astral projection is when you're outside of your body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I know it as. Yeah.
Would you have thought that?
No.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So apparently there is a substance that I'm not going to pronounce, but I'm going to say what I thought was the thing called DNT1. Well, let me double check. Sorry, guys.
Is that thing? That drug?
DMT? It's either DNT1.
I think it's DMT.
It's DMT.
Yeah, it's a drug. The God drug.
So it's called I am going to say it for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, you
dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine. Maybe that's when it says people are like, oh, you're tripping.
Oh, maybe.
I think I just made that up.
It could be.
But that sounds really clever, though. That was a really good job, Kasie. It's famously dubbed the spirit molecule. The spirit molecule by Dr. Rick Strassman. So it produces, quote, an intense psychedelic experience when ingested.
People are nuts about that.
Okay. But it also comes when you sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not know any of this. So DMT produces like hallucinations, which is why people are tripping on it because it's like tryptamine or whatever. So it produces, it's produced from the pineal. That's all right. Pineal?
It could be pineal.
Pineal. I'm going to,
Let's call it the pineal.
How
like
to pronounce
Pineal.
Pineal. All right, pineal gland. Okay, it produces from the pineal gland, and it's also known as the third eye. Not the molecule. The pineal gland is known as your third eye.
Gotcha. Okay.
So DMT is produced when we sleep, and it's said to be the reason we dream. So it can produce like psychedelic visions.
Fun.
Right, which would make sense that if people can get it. It says it's grown or found in like almost every molecule of life or something like that.
I know somebody. I won't name any names.
Okay? It's not me, guys.
It's not Kasie. Who claimed to have like DMT in their freezer. They were like saving for a special occasion.
Okay, after we're done recording, I want to know who that is.
But yeah, people get like really like
into it,
hyped up about it.
So, well, that would make sense because if they get really like if they have hallucinations and whatever, so a lot of times sleep paralysis comes in combination with the DMT stuff. When people are in a near-death experience.
Oh.
So, this is a quote.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind is that when our bodies are under stress that may result in death, our pineal, not pineal, pineal glands pump our brains with DMT. This may explain the reason we see a supernatural light, paranormal experiences, or seemingly astral project when we have a near-death experience.
Yeah. So all those people saying like,
They
I
see
saw
God.
Jesus.
It could be a hallucination.
Could be hallucination.
Or it could be real. I'm not going to say that it's
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it is, and so like with sleep paralysis, also with if you're asleep, that hallucination thing has been released, but you're like triggered awake before that. So which could be why you see some of the hallucinations or why people might say they see things,
Right.
like I said, on their deathbeds and stuff like that, which I thought was interesting.
That is very interesting.
But I like to think that people just see God at the end.
Yeah, I hope that's the case
It's
and not a
kind of
hallucination.
comforting. I mean, I guess either way, it's comforting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of a bummer. I didn't want to read that. I wanted it to be like, and I saw Jesus, and that the end.
Yeah. They have those, I Survived. Have you ever watched those? Like, I Shouldn't Be Alive.
Yeah.
Sometimes people on that will be like, then I saw this warm, basking light.
Which could be you're in a hospital or you're in a place,
right.
You're asleep or whatever, near death, and it's all these things are being released.
Yeah.
So, are you curious on how to astral project using sleep paralysis?
I mean, I guess.
You don't want to know?
Well, yeah, tell me.
Okay, so there's a whole how-to, guys, on Astro 101. It's called spiritmolecule.com/psychedelics/DMT/Astro 101 DMT sleep paralysis.
All right.
All right. So basically, you get yourself into that type of sleep. Like, you get yourself into the sleep, but then when you are like a meditative type state, and when you want to move and do things, you have to like keep your body calm.
Okay.
And then you basically just wait till you're in this like phase, and then you wait. This is what it said. Wait for the DMT to drop.
So you're basically...
Drop that DMT!
Are you trying to like...
You're almost
induce sleep paralysis?
Yeah, you're like inducing sleep paralysis / hallucinations because you want the DMT.
Yeah.
So then you do that, and then once you are in that in-between phase, I guess, you like just envision yourself getting up. I'm not reading. There's a whole page on it.
Yeah.
Like, you envision yourself getting up, and the article said one way you can do it is put a glass of water by your nightstand and like trying to imagine yourself getting the water, and then you will like astral project, which I think means, guys, like in theory you can be like looking down on yourself. Not like emotionally down on yourself. Like, God, Kasie, you're such a piece of shit. But like from your body, like your soul or whatever gets up and looks on your body.
Yeah.
So that's how you could attempt to astral project. Now, I will tell you, and we will talk about this in another episode when I do past lives. I have tried to do a past life regression.
Yeah.
And I'm going to save that for the next episode.
Okay.
Not the next episode, but whenever I do it.
Okay.
Woo, it's a teaser. Okay. So, guys, I'm going to end on some positive notes.
Oh, okay.
Ways to prevent sleep paralysis. Now, as I said, I've suffered from this for a while. I forgot to tell you guys this, but it does happen. It usually starts to happen when you're an adolescent and goes well into it heightens in your 20s and 30s.
Gotcha.
And then it probably goes on occasionally from there.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason why is because your sleep habits and your hygiene is like all whack.
Right.
So, the more stressed you are or the more tired you are, sleep paralysis is more likely to happen. If you drink like a lot of caffeine before bed, sleep paralysis might happen. A lot of people, it happens during their naps. Like, I think my friend Ashley said it happens during her naps. And the reason for that would be because you're in between that like light sleep and dark and deep sleep kind of thing. But so make sure you're not napping I feel like a doctor. Make sure you're not napping too close to bedtime. You're getting a good sleep, a regular sleep schedule. You're not watching TV beforehand, and which makes sense to me because all these times that I've had sleep paralysis, like all through college and high school or whatever, my sleep habits were awful. I'd go to bed at like 12 or 1, wake up at like 5:30 or 6, like be doing stuff, working, like doing schoolwork, and so you're just like overworked and tired and stressed.
Yeah.
So that's often when sleep paralysis happens.
Cool.
Also,
well, not cool, but interesting.
Also, you should try not to sleep on your back or stomach. Like, try to fall asleep on your side. Most people do.
Yeah.
But you're more likely to have it if you lay on your back.
Gotcha.
Unless you just want to try and astral project, then I say power to you.
Then go for it.
And also, when you're in the middle of experiencing a sleep paralysis, for those of you that have had sleep paralysis before, you probably have your own trick to it, because like we all, like I do. But what they say to help, like on WebMD or whatever the article was, said to really try and focus on your breathing. Mm-hmm. Because like mindfulness and meditation is also just really good health habits too.
Yeah.
But so to focus on your breathing, which is what I do. Like usually when I first wake up, I'm freaked out. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, Kasie, this is just sleep paralysis. You can do it. And then I just try to like focus myself back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And that's what they say to do, is try to like take control of your breath. Because I don't think I've ever like, I guess there's been some times where I've like tried to force myself awake and I've kind of woken up, but usually I've had the most success when I've like taken deep breaths and got myself to calm back down and kind of go back to sleep and then wake up normally.
Yeah.
But I usually remember when I have sleep paralysis because you're like awake.
Wow.
But that's a super fun time of sleep paralysis.
That's crazy. I've always like known what it was, but like never really knew like why it happens or who it happens to.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I'm glad that I like finally researched it back in college and like was talking about it, because once you talk about it, a lot more people have experienced it than you think. Mm-hmm. And it's always kind of nice to be reassured that you're not crazy.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, always talk about what's going on, because almost certainly somebody else has had it too.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially sleep paralysis. But I'm like the fear that I had that night, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Ugh,
And I've had that before, but yeah. Anyway,
fun.
that's sleep paralysis.
Yeah, that was a good one, Case.
Thanks. Now I gotta figure out what to do next. But do you know what you're doing next?
I do.
Is it a surprise?
No, it's not to be a surprise. I'm pretty sure you know about it. Like, you know, you're familiar with the topic.
Oh, can I know? Or are you gonna? What is it?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
After we're not recording anymore.
Sure.
Okay. Everyone can be surprised.
Yes, you will all be surprised.
I love it. My friends at work that listen are like, okay, what's next week? I'm like, I don't know.
My sister was texting me yesterday something about Pearl Bryant, and she said something about, she said, oh my god, your feet. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, that's how we would identify you. And I'm like, what? And she was like, you were talking about like how you'd identify your body on the podcast. And I was like, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. Did we talk about that?
Guess.
Did you must, I don't remember.
I don't know. I
don't know how anyone would identify
I don't
me.
remember what you're talking about. She's like, oh my god.
I really don't remember.
I don't remember that either.
Anything. People are like, did you remember when you said this? No.
Yep. No memory.
I don't remember. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. We are going to just keep chugging along, and hopefully you guys like it and share us. If you have any suggestions, you can text us personally if you have our numbers, or you can email us at thedarkfilespodcast@gmail.com. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you just blank what you were going to say?
Yes. You can edit that out.
No, I'll just keep it.
Just keep it. Okay.
Okay.
Or you can find us on Instagram at Dark Files Podcast, or on Twitter at the Dark Files Pod. We also are on Patreon.
Yes.
If you would like to give us some monies.
So for those that don't know how Patreon works, I'm going to have Emily explain it, because I don't know. I don't know as like a fan how it works.
I subscribe. I do give $5 a month to the last podcast on the left. You boys are welcome. I know I'm keeping your business afloat.
Yeah.
But so you pay, and
You have to make an account?
Yeah, you have to make an account, and you like set up a donation. And it can be as little, like, you know, it's really dependent on what you are able to and want to get. Like, it's not like a set number or anything. But anyway, so you donate to the podcast, and then you get exclusive content, some other perks. So right now, the exclusive content Kasie and I are going to give you folks are our side slices.
Side slice.
Which are just short, like 10-15 minute stories that you'll get exclusively, right? So you would pay for that content.
And you guys are the only one that gets them. Like,
Yes.
we just did one on The Dancing Plague.
Plague.
But you only get to access that.
Yeah.
That's now currently on our Patreon, so you can get it if you are a patron of our Patreon.
And I have one in the works that I'm going to do in the next week or so on legless animals.
That's perfect for you.
I know,
You don't have animals without legs.
I don't.
Yeah.
So that we've got some exciting stuff. We're having a lot of fun.
Oh, we're also on YouTube.
Yes, we're on YouTube.
It's not like our faces recording us because I don't want my face to be seen right now. Usually we're after work and we're both tired and like yawning the whole time.
Yes.
But we are on. The content is on YouTube. I need to put some new episodes out. But so if you have people that want to listen but don't have Spotify or Apple, they can find us on YouTube at the Dark Files Podcast, and there is a playlist already made starting from episode 1.
Yes, episode 1.
All right.
I
think that's it.
Kasie, in the case of sleep paralysis, what do we say?
Case closed. What did I...